Hi and welcome back. In this video, we are going to show all the movies, or allow the user to look at the movies they've already entered. In the last video, we added the functionality to allow users to add new movies. So we're going to check that one. And then we're going to tackle this one here, show all their movies. So we've got our menu, in which while the user doesn't type Q, we're going to run through these if statements. And if they type L, we're going to run the show movies function. That should probably go through each movie dictionary in our list and print it out nicely. So let's go and implement that. Now, the menu function, the first function it used was the add movie function. So that's directly defined underneath it. The next function it uses is the show movies function. So that should go directly underneath add movie. As you can see, we're going to define the functions in the order in which they are used. And I find this is great for readability. So let's do that. Show movies. So what do we want to do in order to show some details of each movie? Well, we're going to have to go over each movie in our list and print its details out nicely. I'm sure you can do this, so if you've not done this already, pause the video and give it a go. Now, for movie in movies, we're going to print some stuff out. So we're going to print name is going to be movie name. Notice how I'm using double quotation marks here because we've got a single quotation mark inside this dictionary usage square bracket notation. So we'll need to use double quotation marks on the outside. There we have it. Now we are printing the name, director, and release year of each of our movies. That means that we no longer need line 67, print movies, because we'll be able to check that the movies that we're adding are there directly in our menu. Now let's go and right-click our app and run it again. And now we should be able to add a new movie. And that's going to be The Matrix. The directors are those, and the year is 1994. And now we should be able to type L to see our movies. And as you can see, we've got the name is The Matrix, director is the Wachowskis, and release year is 1994. Then we can type Q to exit. You can click right here in order to dock or hide that thing there, the console, so that it'll only appear when you run the app again. Now, something I've noticed earlier is that the spacing between our various inputs wasn't great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add \n here at the start of this string. And \n is a special character that means add a new line. So now when we run our app.py again, we'll see that if we add a new movie and we type The Matrix, Wachowskis, 1994, the next line has a space before it, so that's just a bit nicer. Okay, then we can stop the app. Notice that when you stop the app manually, you get an error, but that's totally fine. That just means that you've sort of interrupted the application while the application was waiting for some keyboard input. We don't care about that. Okay, now we've added this show movies functionality. There is something else, though, that I'd like us to do, which is we realize that these three lines here do something very particular. They output movie details in a printable format. So it is a possibility for us to extract these into a function. It's almost always a good idea to look at your application and see which pieces of functionality are self-contained and can be extracted into a function to make your program more readable. So what we're going to do is we're going to define a new function, show movie details, and that's going to take a parameter, movie. And then what it's going to do inside it is going to do all this stuff. It's going to print the name, director, and release year of this movie. Now, inside show movies, we can call that function instead of having these three print statements. Okay, now for each movie variable inside our movies list, we're going to pass the value of that movie variable, the dictionary, and make it equal to this movie variable defined in this function. However, remember the concept of scope. This movie variable here only exists within this loop and within this function. So this movie and this movie variable are different variables altogether. It is only the value, the dictionary, that we are teleporting from this function call into this parameter. So the value of the variable is now being assigned to this movie. Even though they have the same name, they are different variables because this one is only alive in this function. Okay, that's a really important thing. And we will frequently use the same name for things just because it makes sense. After all, what we're doing is we are showing things about a movie. It makes sense for our variable in this function to be called movie, but it also makes sense for it to be called movie here. And that is fine because of the concept of scope. Over time, you'll get less confused by things like these if you are confused by it. If you're not confused by it, awesome. Okay, now we've got our new function, which is being called, and I think this is looking a lot better because our program is much cleaner now. And in PyCharm, once you're done with a function, you can always collapse it by pressing this little minus icon on the left, and that's just going to make your program a bit nicer to read. And of course, don't remember, you can also uncollapse it by pressing the plus if you ever want to look at it. Okay, now the last thing we have to do is our find movie. Let's do that in the very next video, but first, of course, let's check this one here. We've allowed the users to show all their movies. We've only got one task left before we are finished with this project. I'll see you in the very next video.